I am a Hague mom. In 2016, I found myself and my child in a situation where we were in danger in our own home, where we weren't safe, and I was scared. So I made what felt like the safest and only decision. We went home to my parents, home to America, where I'm a citizen and surely we would be safe. Turned out I was naive. What I would like people to know about the Hague Convention is that the trial itself is its own trauma. Handing over my life and the life of my son to the decision of one judge, one man, was terrifying. And it wasn't even my life the court was concerned about. I became an afterthought. 21 hours I was on the stand. 21 hours reliving the worst moments of my life, trying to convince a stranger what I knew was true in my heart, that we weren't safe. The financial burden, the emotional scars that the Hague case has caused will stay with me my entire life. As I pick up the pieces and stay strong for my son, I am now not so naive. These antiquated laws must change. I deserve, my son deserves, to be safe without the expedited torture of a Hague case.
Hi, my name is Lee. My case is about forced labor and human trafficking. I came to Europe 10 years ago for work. I've been trapped and forced to work without pay, left without food, often for days in a row. I became pregnant through the rapes. I escaped, but the justice system didn't allow me to report everything that happened, including sexual abuse against my daughter. I had to go through a judicial process. The father wanted to take my daughter away from me and put her in a children's home. My rapist is recognized as a father, and as a father, he will not allow me to leave the country. My family and everything I have is in my home country. How many more years will I not be able to see them?
I'm a Hague mother who fled with my child from Malta to Croatia, my home country, to save our lives. In Malta, I was a victim of domestic, mental, financial, and media abuse. My child was born during my marriage to my ex-husband, making him her legal father, although her biological father recognized her 6 months after we left Malta, the time she was 2. 6 months later, he filed an abduction claim under the Hague Convention. The court proceedings, which should have taken weeks, stretched on for years due to his delays. During this time, until dato, he neither visited our child nor paid child support. My child is now 8.5 years old. Eventually, the court ruled in my favor, and my child and I stayed in Croatia. I faced immense mental, emotional, and financial exhaustion with no state support while dealing with a wealthy and powerful man whose interest was to continue his abuse of me and the justice system.
I lost my house and all my belongings, and all my cards were blocked, and I was in my ex-husband's country. I started living in very, very poor housing, which then my ex-husband also used against me, saying he could not agree with me having the children because it wasn't appropriate for the girls and it was unsafe. I had no access to my money. I had no access to anything. So whatever was possible, he would use against me and present me in a negative narrative that was very beneficial. And he continued doing that until our youngest daughter became an adult.
My story, sadly, isn't unique. I took my daughter to escape from a violent and aggressive husband. He had already taken my son from me and stopped me from seeing him, and I was scared. I never expected him to file a Hague application. What's worse is that I thought the courts would protect me because I had a restraining order against him in the country that I fled. My ex-husband was arrested in our home country when he beat me up the first time, and like other women, I believed he wouldn't do it again. he did. I was and still am going through the trauma of being abused in every which way. Emotionally, psychologically, financially, legally. I returned with my daughter, and 2 years on, I am still fighting for custody of her. I sometimes wonder if this will ever end.
I'm stuck in Sweden, and I want to be able to go home. I'm tired of being stuck here. I don't have a proper job. I'm isolated. I still feel traumatized from my ex being abusive of both me and our kids. My kids want to come with me so they can see my family more. I'm just tired of being isolated and afraid. My ex is still stalking me. I still see him, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of not having any rights.
I was a victim of domestic violence during my marriage. My husband isolated me, controlled our finances, and dictated my social interactions. He abused me financially and psychologically, including gaslighting, death threats, and ultimately he raped me. He neglected our child and restricted necessary expenses. I decided to leave during a holiday, initially with his agreement, but he soon filed a Hague Convention claim, which changed everything. Domestic violence and child welfare were dismissed, and he exploited the legal system to maintain control. Despite ongoing investigations against the father, my child was taken by force, given into his care, and was returned. The father, who had assaulted us during visits during the Hague proceedings, faced no consequences. I endured a 2-year criminal trial and was acquitted, but the trauma left both my child and me with severe PTSD. Before the Hague case, I was the primary caregiver. Post-return, the father has restricted contact further, and my child was told that they may only see me again when grown up. Legal action to address this requires funds I don't have, and the father, awarded full custody, faces no penalties.
Even before my estranged husband invoked the Hague Convention, this country, in a very real sense, became my prison. Travel to see my family in Wales was deemed too costly or not convenient, and so I only returned a few times within the 7 years of being here. Abusers isolate, and the constant heartache of being away from family and friends has been like mourning their deaths. My husband, whilst failing to turn up to court for access hearings, also threatens legal abuse against me, citing parental alienation. Even though he fails to appear, I still have to pay for representation. He also fails to pay maintenance towards the upkeep of our children. I fear that freedom from his abuse will never come. If there are children involved, abusers know that they can still manipulate and control our lives through the legal system, finances, and the children themselves.
Since the Hague case, every legal proceedings, every affidavit, I'm being further traumatized. Forced to relive the violence, forced to face bankruptcy. I will not be able to buy a house here where I'm stuck. I'm likely to lose my home in my own country because the marriage laws here do not protect women. I live every day worried about where my daughter and I will live. I was made homeless here. My ex-husband didn't even care if his daughter had a home. For me, after The Hague, there is more abuse through legal abuse, and the Hague Convention allows my ex to label me as an abductor instead of the mother, forever using that judgment in court. Mentally, it is destroying. I cannot function sometimes, and I'm losing the will to continue to fight. My daughter lives in fear of losing me, of being sent to live with her father. Where there is domestic abuse, The Hague absolutely fails women and children.